What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of On the Break. We have a good one coming to you. I hope everyone is having a great week. But before we get started, we'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. If you are on YouTube and you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button and comment down below. And if you are new, subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you don't miss any basketball content like this. We have clips of our show on YouTube, but we also have other content like NBA breakdown videos where we break down film or NBA recaps where we recap games throughout different weeks of the NBA season. If you like podcasts, then you are in luck. This is actually our first episode that we will post as a podcast. So if that is more of your style, go check out our podcast feed on Spotify under On the Break.
But to answer your question about the Raptors, I think it was the right move to make. There was really no need to keep Pascal for too much longer. I think he was willing to resign from what talks have been about him wanting to stay in a Toronto Raptors uniform. But I think with the point with the at the stage that they're currently at, I didn't really think that was probably a good plan if they were to go that direction. Simply because they were not going to be able to like compete with anybody as far as the Eastern Conference crown. So I think it was the right move. Pascal, I think after this year, he's a free agent. So he'll have to negotiate a new contract. And if you're the Raptors, there's really no point in signing him once again because I believe it would be multiple years again. And, for a player of his stature, I think it's best that he goes to a team that has a chance to contend. And the Raptors are making the right move, in my opinion, as far as choosing a rebuild. I think they got a player in RJ Barrett where they can see how the hometown kid plays and performs for them, see if it's a new nucleus or core that they can build off of, give him a chance to really be the number one guy and see what he can do. Pair him with Scotty Barnes, who you drafted. Those are two long wings, and they have high potential. And for them to be in roles that are most comfortable for them instead of being role players, RJ Barrett had to play sidekick to both Randall and Brunson. He was in a lot of spot up situations where, that's not his strong suit. We don't really think of RJ Barrett as a spot up shooter. We know he loves to drive to the basket, an athlete. And if he can't hit the shot, he will. But primarily he needs the ball in his hands to be the most effective version of himself. And I think him and Scotty can get some, reps together, some experience, and Messiah Jury and the rest of that front office can kind of gauge and monitor how good they think they can be with those two guys at the top of their roster. Bruce Brown, I do kind of expect for him to be on the move. He was another guy that was very high on a lot of teams' lists as far as free agents or guys that could be signed to their team. So I think he could be on the move as well. I know there's a lot of teams like the Lakers that were talking about him. I'm sure the Nuggets would love to have him back. I don't know if that would be possible. That would kind of be crazy if the Nuggets got Bruce Brown back. But I know there's a lot of teams out there with the trade deadline being, I think, 3 weeks out or something like that. I think he could be on the move as well. It would kind of be hard for me to see him in a rebuilding situation, especially coming off of a championship. So I expect him to be moved at some point and go into a contender. But I think it was the right move for the Raptors. I think moving OG was a pretty obvious sign that they're going to make some moves with the rest of this roster, especially with them not having a real chance to contend for the Eastern Conference championship.
Yeah, no, it was definitely the right move from the Raptors standpoint to lean into that rebuild around Scotty Barnes and now over there with RJ Barrett and Emmanuel quickly. And then you look at from the standpoint, like you mentioned, the contract situation with Pascal Siakam, trying to re-sign him while you're trying to rebuild. We already talked about this in the Warriors video. You can't be in that middle ground of trying to go through a rebuild and then also
Yeah.
have a whole bunch of older veterans that are trying to win now. It just doesn't mix, and you kind of find yourself in that middle ground of just not being able to be successful at either one of those situations, right? You trying to develop young guys and then also trying to win now. It doesn't always mix, or it's really tough to do that because you got to let the young guys go through these different times where they may mess up, but still learn from that situation. And that's not the best thing in terms of winning now. You want to have guys that already understand how to win now. So I think that was a good move in terms of moving OG and then moving Pascal and bringing in assets and different players that can help you in terms of that rebuilding mode that you are around Scotty Barnes. So that I think that was definitely a really good move from the Toronto Raptors. They did get those two picks back. I don't think that they'll be that great of picks because the Pacers will be good, and then the other teams that the Pacers have picks from that they traded over, those teams will be pretty good as well. So I don't think they're going to be that great of picks, but you do have Bruce Brown, like you mentioned, that you could have as a trading piece to get other things and other assets or other players that you might think can fit your timeline. And then having Bruce Brown, I think, you know, in his situation, like you said, there different teams have been thrown out, so he can actually go to a possible contender as well. So I think it was a good trade all the way around. I really like this trade for the Indiana Pacers. I think Pascal Siakam is going to be a really good addition to that team. I don't know exactly where the Pacers will fall, but they can definitely make it, into that top six. So they won't have
Yeah.
to go into that play-in tournament situation. But we'll see how the East shakes out. It seems like after teams like Boston, Milwaukee, and the Sixers, after that it's kind of tough to know exactly who's going to finish where within the Eastern Conference. It's kind of volatile, so it's going to be fun to look at that and see how things shake out.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like if I'm the Raptors, like every move I make for the rest of the season is to get as much draft capital and assets as I can. And if I have a player that I think has value with with other teams in the league, like you have to look at offers and ways to, go ahead and just send them somewhere where teams are willing to give you assets that you can use. Because if you're rebuilding, you got to go all in. Like we keep saying, like you can't be half and half. Kind of the Warriors did with thinking of two different timelines. You kind of have to be focused on one thing. And I think with the rebuild, you just have to get as much as you can for the time being, because with a lot of these teams, it's paying off in the long run. If you look at the Oklahoma City Thunder, I always think about them and Sam Presti and what he's done over the years. It was rough some years, and like they had Chris Paul that one year, but
Hmm.
eventually they were able to get assets after him. And look at what they're at now. They're the top of the Western Conference. Like they're currently number two,
And they
where they
still
were.
got a bunch of picks.
Yeah, and they still got a bunch of picks. When they were what, 9 or 10 last year, I believe, at the end of the season. And they have, like we heard, opportunities to get players like Lauri Markkanen and another young star. And if you look at the Timberwolves, like look at all the number one picks they've had over the years, and they've made ways of getting more assets. And now they're at the top of the Western Conference for the first time since I've been watching basketball. This is the best they've been since I think KG. Yeah, if they stay with this route, I think it'll be the best. It'll pay off in the long run, anyways, because you're not going to really attract free agents like that. So draft capital is the best way to build for a team, a small market team, as we've seen it work for many other small markets as well. I wish the Hornets could do something like that, but it don't look like that's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely see where you're coming from.